Our weekly reading, Tetzaveh, starts unusually. Ve'ata Tetzaveh. Hashem tells Moshe, you should tell the Jewish people to take the special oil of very high quality and use it to light the menorah. Now, in general, this parsha does not have Moshe's name in it. And it's already mentioned in early commentators that the reason is when Moshe said to Hashem, if you don't forgive the Jewish people, blot me out from your book. Hashem kind of blotted out his name from one parsha, the parsha that usually is read when Moshe died on the 7th of Adar. Usually the reading of Tetzaveh falls on that week. But at any rate, the question I have today for everybody is, why does it say leha'alot ner tamid? Literally, to bring up the constant candle. It's an unusual way to say to light, to bring up, leha'alot. So our sages already in the Talmud discussed this and mentioned that the candle has to be lit in a way that it will continue by itself. The fire will go up by itself afterwards. It's fully lit, not just on the very edge, not just on the very top, a little bit of the wick is lit. But the wick has to be lit, the majority of the wick has to be lit so that the fire goes by itself afterwards. Continues without need to maybe tilt the candle to make sure that it lights, it goes better. Afterwards, it's supposed to be going by itself. By the way, the same law applies to Shabbat candles. Some people don't know it, but the way that ideally you should light Shabbat candles is that the majority of the wick that sticks out has to be lit. What I wanted to mention is a very interesting idea that I read in the commentary of Rav Shimshon Refael Hirsch. And that is, of course, we know that usually the candle is a remez, is a hint to the student who is being lit with the fire of Torah. Right? The teacher lights the fire within the student. So Rav Shimshon Refael Hirsch seems to imply that the correct way of lighting the candle that our sages describe based on this unusual usage of the verb leha'alot actually teaches quite a lot about the relationship between student and teacher. On the one hand, the person lighting a candle has to light in a way that it will continue by itself. So the idea is that the teacher can later leave the student as independent. He teaches enough that the student can then continue learning by himself. He shouldn't always depend on the teacher. On the other hand, you don't want to take away your hand from the lighting too early. Don't keep your hand in lighting the candle all the time. You have to eventually let the candle burn by itself. But don't remove the hand until you finished lighting the majority of the wick. So these are the two extremes that are not good. Either the teacher who is constantly supervising his student and never lets him go, or the opposite, the teacher who just barely taught the student anything, and then the student is on his own, and of course he can't continue on his own. The fire is not burning well, and it can start flickering and eventually extinguish. I think today it applies a lot in terms of Kiruv movement, the idea of a lot of people try to bring the Jews who are not so affiliated, not so knowledgeable of Torah, who grew up in secular families, they want to bring them back. You don't want to enter one of those two extremes. Either a Kiruv worker who is constantly with that person and never lets them be independent, or for instance a rabbi maybe mekareved somebody, so they want this person to always come to his synagogue, nowhere else. And they never give this person any independence. Of course, this person is thankful to the rabbi who brought him to the Torah, who taught him the Torah, but he shouldn't therefore be obligated to always be dependent on that rabbi. On the other hand, some people, they just want to bring as many people as possible to the Torah, so without even finishing with one, they already go on to the next person, and this person isn't really independent yet. So they remove their hand from the candle before the majority of the wick is burning, before it can burn its own. And a lot of times the person who, while they had good contacts with the rabbi and with the person who brought them to Torah. They were observing the mitzvot, but later on, since the rabbi never finished the job and never really was never really in the life of that person long enough, so this person, once they're left on their own, may completely drop the observance that they had accepted on themselves at some point when they were closer to the rabbi. So this is the delicate balance for the rabbi, or for anybody for that matter. It doesn't have to be a rabbi doing Kiruv. Any Jew who encounters other less religious Jews in their lives could try to invite them for Shabbat and do other things, learn with them. But the point is that don't overdo it. Don't become the constant supervisor of this person, and don't underdo it. Don't let this person feel alone, that you abandoned that person after you thought you already gave him enough knowledge of Torah and now they're on their own. I think that's a great idea based on the beginning of this week's Parsha. And if you like this video, please press like and please subscribe to our channel.